first, inside the 15, Roberson to the house.
Now you think back and you're like, I think naturally you just think back and you're like, did I enjoy I guess it's different stages. You have your kids as babies. Did I enjoy them? Did I hold them enough? Did I, you question that all the time. And so it never really, you never lose that, because it's like, there's just different chapters. And so you just have to really appreciate every day, because even us being home, like we were down to just Rob and I and our daughter, and then now the boys are back, but we're going to enjoy it, because then who's to say it's going to ever happen again?
Once they're older and move away again, it's it's a different house when there's no one in it.
Yeah, being the best you. I always tell my kids, be the best you that you could be. You're not always going to be able to please everybody, or you're not going to be able to just, and then accepting changes that happen in your life. Like, you have a focus on this is my goal. And then when it doesn't happen, you don't want your kids to just give up, and so it just, there's just so much change that happens through, and
I'll get on, and just to touch on that, I get on the phone with Alan, and every conversation is at least an hour and a half, because we just talk, and he to this day, he teaches me, like, man, I need to get Jason, and I know a guy. Mm-hmm. I know a guy. I'm gonna have you talk to this guy, and I love it, because he's just bridging these gaps of things that
networking, just networking.
We have no idea about certain parts of life, like, because we just weren't taught that or grown up in that environment, especially money. So to have people like that have been there, done it, I can put you in. You don't have to do this, but this is a good teaching tool. Talk to this person; they're gonna give you some good advice. I love having that in my back pocket. I'm like, let me call Kevin, let me call Alan and see what they think of this. Let me bounce this off of them. Hey guys, let's get together and do a Zoom call with some of the people from We Are Game that can help us in this area. When Jason went baseball, of course Alan went through it with DJ Reed. Told us all of the pitfalls and we learned a lot, because there was a lot, and it comes at you fast.
Well, and then you just share experiences. Everybody that's just like with life. Yeah. Like if you really, take the time to talk to people, you learn, and they share their mistakes, and then you learn from that. But I think it takes, a really open-minded person. And teaching our kids how to adjust their lives to situations without going crazy, like losing their mind off of, what they thought, and Cameron, he probably in his whole life thought he was going to be NFL, because that's what his dream was, and then he learned that school, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get my education, I'm going to, and I'm going to fulfill that part of, my next chapters with that. And so, just prepare for change and not be afraid to just reach out and ask somebody, like, what are your thoughts on this, or what are your, and that's what I do appreciate, like with Jason and this whole baseball thing. It's new to us, and there's so many different things you need to know that you don't really prepare for. And so just having the ability to have a phone call, somebody being a phone call away, hey, do you have somebody, and Jay's not afraid of that now. Like the old Jason, the young Jason, before going to that camp, that changed his whole,
He's not talking anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he was like, just, not I don't know if I should say shy, but just more reserved, Now he's like, I called him, I already talked to him, and and it's like, okay, like there's just so many things that through the years that have happened that we're so, Rob and I will sit back and we'll talk about, you know, remember this, remember that, and we're like, oh my gosh, you know, how did
like
you
yesterday.
how did we get through this, or how did we get, I mean, just things that you think are just so
important
at the time and
aren't very important.
So Cameron actually had a full ride scholarship for defense football at a high school, and he opted out, and he wanted to stay and play BC, and then he got the offer for Massachusetts, University of Massachusetts, for offense, which that's where he ended up going.
Being a student athlete it's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard, and that's where you know, that's where you got to realize it's hard.
Yeah,
and I mean, especially at that level, it becomes a job. So you're doing, on top of your schoolwork and practice, you're having meetings, so he's up at 5 a.m. He has a offensive meeting. Then he goes to lunch, and then he has to do schoolwork, and then he got another meeting. Then he's got practice. Then he has another meeting. I mean, like all day long, it's scheduled. Then you got to lift weights. Then you got another meeting. You know, and it's tough. You know, it's tough. But myself, being dad, I wanted to make sure you're not just because it's getting hard. You know, it's tough. Because every time things get hard for kids, you want to throw your hands up. I'm done. Well, and we went through it in every stage of their athletic careers. Hey, so are you sure? Let's have these conversations. Make sure that you're really
prayed up,
speaking from and not just from emotions, but you know, it's truly. Because, you know, it is hard work.
And just like with Jason now leaving college ball to go professional, that was another, you know, experience that we were, you know, you're hoping that it's the right decision, and you know, you're praying on that. And, you know, and so far I feel Jason does say that, because I don't know if you guys know, but he was drafted out of high school and he opted out of that and went to college, which we were kind of,
that was tough.
That was tough.
Because let me explain this, why this was tough real quick. Because our kids have no aspect of money, right? Because, I mean, they know money, they know mom and dad gives them money, they go out and have in and out, whatever. So when the draft came around, we literally had to take him in a room and say, look, this mom and dad, what we make a year, it would take us so many years, really break it down to him in layman's terms. It's this is a lot of money. Money's not everything. It will always be there. But let me explain to you what kind of money they're talking about. And I don't know if you guys know, it was $850,000 to come out of high school and play. Just a bonus, just to say, hey, I want to play for you. They would have scratched a check right there.
Swing and a fly ball out to right field and deep. To the track, he's to the fence, reaches up. See you on the other side. Jason Roberson, a walk-off two-run homer to right. The Hops win it 6-4. You know it, baby.
I'm a loss of words. You know, it's a situation like that with a special game like today, where, you know, if you get an opportunity, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, you play that in your head as a kid in the backyard a million times. I know I have, and I was just fortunate to be put in that place, and, you know, you take what the game gives you. We will take that.
We talked to a lot of people and they told us the percentage, a kid coming out of high school,
it's tough.
The percentage that make it to the big MLB, you know, the majors, it's very slim, 2%, I want to say, something like that.
There's a whole process, minor league ball.
Or less than 2%.
That you have to go through to get to the TV
majors.
Screen.
Right.
You know, the big
much,
boys.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, and a lot of challenges that come with that is that there's a lot of Latin players that don't know English. So they kind of click together. They're there. You have a lot of players here in town, a lot of adult players that have been in the system already for years. And you're all fighting for one common goal, to get called up. And high school kids kind of get swallowed in that because they don't, especially kids nowadays, the ones that have been kind of like our kids, just coddled and been taken care of. They get over there and they have to fight for themselves around these grown men, and they just this is not for me.
And Jason is very, he's not going to get talked into anything that he doesn't want to do. He's going to do what Jason wants to do. He's very headstrong, and which is a good thing. Good thing, it could be both. But so we weren't so much worried about the pressures of real world, although he was only 18. So yes, we kind of were in certain things, but not necessarily like, some things. But now, like talking to him, he says I don't regret that decision. I don't regret not, because he feels like at that time he was not ready enough. And
we were always pro school.
Right.
So we were like, look, and thank God we talked to some good people. Alan, Kevin, those guys. MLB is gonna always be there. Whether he goes and shoots for it now, or 3 years later, 4 years later, out of school, it's gonna be there.
Right.
The important thing is, where is he gonna be mentally? Here or when he's 21? Because that was the deal. You can go out of high school, but once you started college, you had to do at least 3 years or turn 21 before you're eligible to come back in the draft.
Yeah. If you go to a 4-year if you go to a 4-year college, you have to do at least 3 years.
Or turn 21.
Or turn 21, whichever comes first. Or you can go back to a junior college, which we learned this all through the whole process. Yeah. Or you can go to a junior college and then go back into the draft the next year if you wanted. But he
did his Cal
He was
State.
loyal because he did give his word that he committed junior year, and he stuck to it, and he did his years, and then when the draft came back up.
And we're thankful because he matured a lot.
A lot.
In that little time frame, like she said, he lived off campus. Although it was across town, it was living on your own with training wheels. You still had mom and dad close enough to help out if you needed, but you had bills, you had, all of these little responsibilities that came along with living off campus. And, and also the Nebraska, and that was a minor league experience on its own, 10-hour bus trips with no AC in the middle of nowhere, those are things he went through. So everything works, in the way it's supposed to work. And
we truly believe
that's why we always just, that's what we preach now, is like, it's gonna work out.
Yeah, no matter what.
You gotta have faith, it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
Because we are all where we're supposed to be. If God had something else intended for us, it would be.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. So, but we need people like Alan and Kevin that remind you of those things, because they've been there, done that, and they've got so much. They got this worldly experience. This,
And the people that they know, it's so
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having that, like just having people, having people.
And
like
now
that
we're people. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? He can call on us.
Yeah.
I've walked a few people through processes of they wanting to go to private school, how to fill out the application, what to expect, things like that. Being minorities in a cultural, it's a big cultural. What's the word I'm looking for the kids that haven't been in that
cultural shock,
maybe, yeah.
Just
there is, just point blank, because if you're coming out of private school coming out of public school going into private school, it's just different. I've been on call, I've been on Zooms with kids. Cameron's now helping younger kids, he's training them. So we're here, we're part of that village now. And our experiences, we'll talk about them until we're blue in the face, because, if we can help anyone out just to ease their stress or their anticipation, we will, because, we were here, and we're thankful for the people that helped us, and we'll give it back 100%, And that's all he asked. That's all we sat down. He's like, hey, all I ask is that the things you learn,
Ellen, you're talking about Ellen.
Yeah, and Kevin, and We Are G.A.M.E. The things you guys learn, you give it back when you can. teach them, pay it forward. That's all we ask from you, nothing else.
Yeah, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I will say too that that's kind of when people that you network out, like this is when it comes in handy, because your kids will listen to you to a point, and then your voice just begins to just be that voice, and then they need to hear somebody else or something else, and maybe it might be the same words but coming from somebody else, and that's when people that you reach out to, the Kevins, the Ellens, the Joyce, everybody else that's involved with We Are Game, like that's when out networking, is so important, because if you have somebody to call and you can say, this is what's going on, what should I do? Whether they give you advice or whether they reach out to your kid and encourage them. And sometimes it takes, and that's where it's just so important to have, a village.
I can give you an example. Just last weekend, Cameron had his first project with Sierra, where it was cleaning up a partial of train track behind their facility in East Bakersfield. So he put together volunteers. He had some of the city councilmen out there and things like that. Well, he spoke on the news, him and a couple other city council. Well, they spoke on the news, so I sent Alan the tape, and Alan sent back, hey, he's rocking too much. Tell him he needs this, he needs it. Positive feedback. I sent it, he goes, yeah, I noticed he didn't do a lot of this, but he did a lot of this.
What was it that he called it? He called it a elevator.
He needs an elevator speech because he kind of rambled on it. So those are things like,
that's going to help him, but if we were to say it, he probably would say, oh, you guys are just, it could come off like that, I'm always the ones that they get mad at me because I'm always the one that they feel is, but it's really not. It's really just trying to critique in a positive way, but of course, our kids aren't going to take it like that. Yeah, I'm mom. I'm just mom.
But, so those are, and I said, that's awesome. He sent me a couple articles, sent me some videos. I passed it along to Cameron. Cameron's also spoke. So those are things that, it never ends. It never ends here. He's an adult working, and he's still getting this coaching, and so although We Are Game, it starts with mentoring athletes, but, these athletes become adults in the real world, and it's still a lot of that mentoring that's going on, and I love it. I love it.
Even us as adults, I think, it always helps. You'll be at work and you're talking to a coworker and you are talking about a situation, and they'll chime in with what they have, that they've experienced. And I mean, if you aren't willing to learn through your life, and be open-minded and try to grow yourself, there's always room for it. So I think that just, if you could teach your kids that, to be open-minded and to take in advice and to learn from it. And
you don't have to take everything you hear and run with it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But take it, and what applies, apply it.
Yeah.
What doesn't, then, and Jason's learning the same thing. He's a business major and he wants to invest. And so he's on the phone with Kathy and some of the We Are Game people that they put them in touch with, and showing them how to invest in certain stocks and what properties to buy. And we've talked to Arizona real estate, so he's just, it's ongoing, and it's amazing. It's amazing. And these guys are, they're learning more now that they're older and more mature, because they take more to heart than it's just
it's reality. I think now it's a reality.
Yeah, and it's just not going in one ear and out the other. They're actually retaining a lot of stuff because they're hearing it more and more and more, and they're more mature enough to take it in. So it's awesome. It's awesome. We love it. We look back and we laugh all the time at some of the experiences and
that we've been through, or things that
especially where we thought we were going to hit a wall and it was over, and here we are.
Yeah.
Just dancing around. You are welcome.
Of course. Yeah.
Thank you guys for taking the time and even
Yeah.
being interested in our boring little story.
You know you gotta climb higher.